Hey guys, Will here, and in this video I'm going to show you how to recreate this scene from scratch inside of Create Studio. All right, so now this scene is 100% fully made inside of Create Studio, so let's go ahead and play this back and see what we're going to recreate.
Number one, could you please sing the opening to I Want It That Way?
Really? Okay. You are my fire.
Number two, keep it going.
The one desire.
Number three.
Believe when I say.
Number four.
I want it that way.
Tell me why.
Ain't nothing but a heartache.
Tell me why.
Ain't nothing but a mistake.
Now number five.
I never wanna hear you say.
I want it that way.
Ah, chills. Literal chills.
It was number five. Number five killed my brother.
Oh my God, I forgot about that part.
All right, so now let's go ahead and recreate this from scratch. So I'm inside of Create Studio 3, and the first thing I need to do is I need to go to my resolution, and then I need to select vertical. All right, I want this to be a vertical style video, and that's the format I want to be working in. All right, so now I can go in and let's get the audio file that we want to be as our base track. So I'm gonna go up here to my media files, and I've got the stored Brooklyn 9 audio file. Inside here, I'm gonna drag that into my canvas. And I do have some dead space in this file that I know about, so I'm just gonna go ahead and trim this down. Yours may not, but mine does. All right, so now if I play this back, you'll see.
Number one, could you please sing the opening to I Want It That Way?
All right, we've got our audio base. So now I can start building the visuals on top of this. All right, so the first thing I need to do is let's find that background. So I'm gonna go over here to my studio section. Under backgrounds, I'm gonna go ahead and search up control room. All right, and there's a couple of control rooms you can choose. I'm gonna go ahead and choose this one right here and drag this onto my canvas. So here's where you can, maximize it to the size. You can also, because you're in a portrait style mode, you can drag your image around and you can choose the actual space you want this background to be, right? Maybe you want some of this instead, or you want it to be in the middle. So we're gonna go ahead and choose the middle here and get it there. And I'm actually gonna go ahead and scale up just a little bit more just to kind of give it that more dramatic effect there. All right, and so here is a good spot. So now I've got my background. I'm gonna go ahead and start this at the beginning, and we can drag this out to about right here for right now. All right, so now that we got that, now I can go ahead and start building out some of the assets that belong in this scene, right? So we're gonna build this little table that he stands behind, right? So I'm gonna go over here to the plus icon. I'm gonna go to rectangle, and I'm gonna drag this down. I'm just gonna resize it out so it kind of surpasses the portrait canvas here, right? And just drag it down here. And then from here, I can adjust and move it to however high I want the table to be or however low I want it to be, right? And I can always make adjustments later. All right, so from here, I'm gonna go ahead and go to my settings, and under color for this rounded rectangle, I'm gonna adjust it. Instead of the fill color being a full color, I'm gonna go to this middle gradient here. And then you can choose to be whatever color gradient you want based upon whatever you're working with, but I'm gonna go ahead and go to my saved preset here, and I'm gonna choose this color here. All right, so now what I can do is I can go to my elements here. I need to search up for the microphone, and I need to search up for the joystick, which is what he uses to talk back and forth to the people behind the glass. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and type in microphone, and let's see what pops up for us. All right, so there is a microphone I wanna use. So I'm gonna go ahead and drag it onto my canvas here. And again, if you haven't downloaded this asset, in the bottom right corner, there is a little download icon. Just make sure you download that first, and then that will allow you to drag in your assets into your canvas. All right, so from here I can resize this, and I'm just gonna put it up here on the table here, and I'm gonna get it to be about right there. And it's looking pretty good so far. All right, so now I can go ahead and start searching for the controller, right? So I'm gonna come over here, go back to my main elements here, and I'm gonna go ahead and search up controller. And here is the controller I wanna use. So again, if you haven't downloaded it, click the little download icon in the bottom right corner, and let's drag this onto our canvas here. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and resize this guy, and we're gonna put him about right here or so, right? So you can kind of see you've already built out the scene really nicely. And I'm gonna go ahead and drag these out to be the full length of our image here. And then we can trim them down here in a second. All right, we'll make this a little fuller here too. Okay, so now we're ready to bring in our character, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and go over here to our 3D creator, and I'm gonna drag in Tom, right? So I'll drag him in here, and let's pull him to the beginning here just for 1 second. Now you can see that this is the standard stock Tom. Now I go over to customize, and you'll see here's where I can change this, all the clothing. I can change his hair, his skin color, the different types of shoes that he's wearing, all these different types of elements I can change and make it to whatever type of character I want. So I do have some presets already saved to kind of speed up this workflow. So I'm going to go to your presets. I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to select this version of Tom right here. All right. So now that I've got that, I can then go ahead and what I want to do is I want Tom to be right above our background image, right? I want him to sit in front of it, but I don't want him to be underneath it because I don't want him to be hidden, right? So what I can do is I can, right on my rounded rectangle track here, I can right click next to it and I can say add track below. All right, so now it created an empty track for me, so I can drag Tom right underneath and then drag it right here. All right, so now you can see he's behind our elements and I do need to resize him a little bit. So let's go ahead and scale him up. And now we can start to place him in the scene here and then get him going, right? So you can kind of see, you can see his legs here, but our portrait box is only set for what you see here in the portrait window. So anything outside of this will not be seen when we play it back. All right, so just that's kind of your guideline, right? So let's get into about right here. And he's looking pretty good so far. All right, so now what we want to do is we can set him to be idle, which he's going to be, and let's extend him out for the length of our tracks here. So if I just play it back as is.
Number one, could you please sing the opening to I Want It That Way?
Really?
All right, so now we know where our audio stops, right? So we can come over here, play it back one more time.
Opening to I Want It That Way.
So here is where his scene, his first scene ends, right? And it'll cut to the new guy, right? So what we can do now is we can trim this background to here. We can take his idle and we can trim it, everything down to this spot here, right? So we're editing in real time in a sense, and then we'll drag that image there. So here's where it'll cut to the next scene. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and zoom in here a little bit and you'll see here's where he stops talking, right? So we got his line.
I Want It That Way.
Really?
So right here, he starts to, the next guy says, really? Right, and he cuts to the next scene. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select this Brooklyn 9 audio file and I'm gonna cut it right here. So I'm gonna go to my cut and I'm just gonna hit cut, right? So I've split it off the main audio track and I did that because I want to sync my audio with Tom, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and right click on my audio and I'm gonna say sync with Tom. All right, so now when I play this back.
Number one, could you please sing the opening to I Want It That Way?
Really?
All right, so now we're ready to migrate into the next section. Now I do want to give Tom some movement, right? So right now, if I'll pull my cursor back here, and if I right click on here and I go to add animation, let's go ahead and give him some position, some character view, and then let's go ahead and change the easy and we'll leave this to in and out. Smooth is fine for now. All right, so what I can do is I want to go ahead and with my first animation, I'm gonna leave it there. But as he's talking, I'm gonna have him lean in, right? So let's go ahead and pull this here. So that way we'll have him lean in a little bit. So let's go ahead and click on our end a keyframe here and I'll come over and I'll just turn my rotate on and I'm gonna go ahead and pull in Tom that way, just like that, okay? And so now when he does this.
Number one, could you please sing the opening to I Want It That Way?
Really?
All right, so we've got a little bit of fluid motion, right? He's got some more interaction with the scene. He's working into the microphone, right? He's speaking into it. So that is our first scene built out, right? So we've got Tom. Now let's build the second character, right, in the lineup. Okay, so what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna go ahead and let's go do our plus icon up here and let's go to rectangle and let's go ahead and expand this out to be the size of our canvas here. And then we're gonna go ahead and change our color and we're gonna go ahead and make it white. All right, now we're gonna go back to our plus icon again. Actually, first, before I do that, let's go ahead and drag this down and stay organized here. So let's go ahead and drag this rounded rectangle all the way down here to this track. And then just so we know how long of time we're working with, I believe he keeps going until about right here.
You are my fire.
All right, so perfect. So we go to about right here. So I can extend this rounded rectangle all the way to here. And this is about the time that I'm working with, right? All right, so now I'm gonna pull my cursor to the beginning of the start here, and I'm gonna go back to my plus icon and choose another rounded rectangle. Now what I'm gonna do is let's go ahead and drag this guy down again. So he's lined on top of this guy and the same length as our bottom rounded rectangle. All right, so now let's go ahead and expand out our rounded rectangle. So I want him to be about this in width to the length of our canvas here. And we can go ahead and drag this down a little bit, shrink him up a little. Now let's go ahead and change the color. So under settings, I'll select color and then let's go ahead and drag this down to be black here. And then under tiles, what we can do is we can turn on our active. And then from here, I can then drag our margins to up and down and I can make them smaller or more narrow, right? So let's go ahead and do this. And what we can do is we can actually make these more narrow if we want to by doing this. And then we can then expand these out even more just to kind of give it that kind of that prison feel, right? That background that we're looking for with the white background. All right, so there we go. So far, so good. So we can leave there, and we can also go in and add a few more rounded rectangles, and we can kind of beef up some of the bars, but we're going to leave this as is because we get the point. We've built this background. Now let's go ahead and add the character to our scene here. So let's go ahead and go to my 3D characters here, and I'm going to go ahead and drag Tom back in here. All right, now I'm going to drag him down so he's lined up with our scene. And then again, this isn't the character I want to use, but again, you can recreate a character if you want and then customize him here in the customize section with all of the awesome customizable features we have here. But I'm gonna go to my presets and I'm gonna drag in our next character that we have here, which is this guy. And I'm gonna go ahead and size him up to be pretty big here. He's gonna be about right here, and I'll move him here. All right, so far so good. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to my idle, and we're going to make his facial expressions to be sad, right? He's kind of scared at first. And then we're going to go ahead and click on our idle here, and we're going to hit add new action, and we're going to add one more idle. All right. And so what I can do is let's go ahead and we'll figure out the parts that we need to here in a second. But this second idle is actually going to be his facial expression is going to be happy, right? So at first he answers the question, he's scared, and then he's happy about it because he gets excited to sing it, right? So it kind of gives it that dimension within that animation. All right, so far so good. We've got our setup here. We're doing good. And so now next, what we need to do is let's go ahead and create the number one box that he's holding in front of him, right? So let's go ahead and let's create another blank. Let's go ahead and create a square here. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and drag this square to about right here. Okay, and then let's go ahead and move this down here, and we can resize it. And actually, just before I do this, let's go ahead and make him, we're going to change the idle here, and we're going to change it to a thumbs up. It kind of makes it work more with the animation itself. Same thing with this guy, thumbs up. All right, so far, so good. Again, I have to change my facial expression. Let's make this one happy, and this one is going to be sad. Okay, so we've got our setup there, and we're ready to go. Now, I am going to adjust his character view, his rotate here, so that he is facing kind of this way, right? And he's good to go there. And I hit rotate, and I'll then pull him off a little bit more right there. All right, now let's go ahead and take our square that we just created. Let's go ahead and size this down just a little bit here. He's doing a thumbs up. Let's go ahead and disable the start and the end for both of these thumbs ups. Still disable everything there. All right, so that way he's already sitting in that thumbs up position. He's not animating into a thumbs up, right? All right, so we've got that. Let's take our square here and let's move it up and cover our guy here just like this. All right, so he's holding the number one. We're gonna go to color and we're gonna change this to white here. All right, and then what we're gonna do is we're going to add a number here. Let's go ahead and add some text. So I'm gonna go to text here, and then from here, we're going to change the color of this text and we're gonna make it black. Okay. And then all we're going to do is add the letter 1. And then let's go ahead and drag this here. And then let's go ahead and take that number 1. And let's move him right on top here, just like that. All right. And so what we can do though too is we can move our color, since the white is blending in too much with the background there, what we can do is click on our white, and we can actually make it this off gray color here, just like that. And I can actually make it a favorite. That way I have it for the next set of characters, right? So here's my number 1 guy. And then just to give it even more flair, what I can do is I can select both of these, the text and the square. I can right click, hit group. And then what it'll allow me to do is I can then add a motion effect to it, right? Because what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select my group here and then come over here to motion. And then under the loop section, I can go to rotation and then click on swing, right? Now I can then adjust my length of the swing itself, right? So I can pull it out. I can make it about this big or so. Now what it allows me to do is kind of give it some motion so he's not just holding a board and it's not moving, right? His body moves, so the board should move. It's kind of the theory, right? So what I can do, if I play this back as is, it's spinning a little bit too much, right? So what I can do is select it again. I got the loops. Let's go ahead and bring down the percentage of the rotation to about 0. Let's see what that does for us.
Okay.
So we can probably go a little higher than that. I don't want it to be too crazy. I just want a little subtle movement. There we
Okay.
go. Just enough to like it shows that the board is moving with his body as he's kind of moving, right? Now let's go ahead and sync some audio to our character, right? So let's find out where this ends, and I think it ends about right here.
Number 2, keep it going.
Okay, so perfect. So right here is where it cuts to the next scene. So what I can do is select this guy. Let's hit cut. And again, we've got this section here that we need to sync with Tom's audio, right? All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and scroll down here. I'm gonna select my Brooklyn 9 audio for this section. And let me just play this back so I can see and make sure that my transitions are happening nicely.
Okay. You are.
All right, cool. So he'll transition to a happy face when he's about to sing, right? So now I can go down and I can go to right click on my Brooklyn 9 audio here, and I can go to the second sync with Tom here and sync with it, right? So now I can play this back here.
Really? Okay. You are my fire.
Okay, so we've got his section built out. Now we're gonna add a little bit of camera movement so that we can kind of punch in a little bit as he starts to sing. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over to my effects and components, and I'm gonna click on components here, and I'm gonna drag a camera onto my canvas. And you'll see that it added a camera track. So now what I wanna do is I want that camera to zoom in right as he's about to sing. So about right here. So I'm gonna pull my cursor to here, and then I'm gonna go ahead and right click on my camera track and hit add animation. And you can see if I click on the camera, this outline here is the full, like almost like a full frame shot of the character, right? And if I put my cursor at the end here, here's where I can manipulate how much do I want it to zoom in, right? So I can take this and this is my camera here, and the closer I get to my subject, that's how close the camera is zooming in, right? So what I can do is let's put it to about right here. And then now what I'm gonna do is because I adjusted the camera, I'm gonna need to reset my lip sync, right? So I'm gonna go back down here, click on my Brooklyn 9 audio, right click, and then on the second sync with Tom, click it again. So now when I come back here and press play,
You are my fire.
Number 2, keep it going.
all right, so now we're gonna build the next scene, right? So we're gonna go back to the box of the cop, right? And we're gonna build that scene out. Now it's gonna be a little simpler because we're just gonna basically copy and paste the scene we already have and just kind of manipulate them a little bit and then cut back to the new character. All right, so let's go and do that now. All right, so let's go over back to our first character here, which is this guy. And I'm just gonna select our first image, the microphone here, the rounded rectangle, our character, and our background image. I'm not gonna copy the audio because I have new audio there that we're gonna use. All right, so then I'm gonna go ahead and just Command C, and then I'm going to put my cursor over here to this side of the tracks and hit Command V, and it's gonna paste them all right there. So now what I can do is I can just move them down so they are in line here down below. All right, so here is where I can take them and I can then manipulate them even more. All right, so on this one, let's go ahead and find where the audio stops.
Number 2, keep it going.
The one.
Okay, so about right, let's zoom in a little bit more. And
Keep it going.
so right here is where we're going to cut this audio track. So we're gonna go ahead and hit cut there. And then let's go ahead and trim these guys down so they are the length of this guy here. And I'm gonna go ahead and move this guy this way. All right, so here, and then let's trim down a rounded rectangle and then trim down our audio files here to match, right? So it's, again, I just copied it over and all we're doing now is manipulating this to be a little bit different, right? So what we can do is I can then right click the Brooklyn 9. I can then sync with Tom, right? And so here we have our lip sync already.
Number 2, keep it going.
All right, and so you can see that the camera has a play here. So what I can do is let's go ahead and add a new camera. So I'm gonna go ahead and right click, add animation, and then we're going to go to the beginning here of this guy. Let's go to the beginning here, this side. All right, and let's go ahead and expand camera, and let's leave that alone so it stays where it is for now. All right, so go here.
Number 2, keep it going.
So we're gonna go ahead and make this a little bit more where he leans in even more. So we're gonna go ahead and have him, let's pull him down a little bit on this one. Oops, let's go to character rotate here. Let's take him down even here. Just lower him, just like he's getting into it. And now if we rotate, let's go click on here, let's go rotate. Let's pull him down even more so he's talking into the microphone. And then of course, let's change this so his facial expression is happy. All right, so now let's play this back and see where we're at.
Number 2, keep it going.
The one.
Number 2, keep it going. Number 2, keep it going.
The one.
So here, he's already there. Let's have him get down even farther here. And let's move him. Let's take that rotate off and let's move him to the side just a little bit more this way. There we go.
Number 2, keep it going.
The one.
Here we go. All right, so we've got, you start tweaking with it a little more and you can finesse it a little more and give it a little more of a look that you want. But you can kind of add those little subtleties with the animation. It kind of breaks it come to life even more, right? So far, so good. He's leaning into it. We've got that. And then it's going to cut to the next new guy. Now for the next guy, all I'm going to do is let's copy in our 2 rounded rectangles here that we've got from this side. I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste them onto my scene here. Let's go ahead and drag them down and let's just pull them up against here. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and add our third character, I should say. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to our 3D character. Let's go ahead and drag in this character Tom here right at the beginning. And then I'm going to go ahead and go to my presets and we're going to go to the third guy, right? So we've got this guy right here. All right, so now what I can do is I can make him bigger. I can drag him out. And again, we're going to give him the thumbs up as well. So go to my idle and let's go to a thumbs up. And then we're going to be adding our little board, our number system here in a second here. So let's go ahead and copy that. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and let's actually zoom in on our character a little more. So I'm gonna click on my Tom character and let's go ahead and let's move him down a little bit. Let's just zoom in even more here. All right, we're gonna go here and we're really gonna punch in because I want this to be a really pretty decent close up here, probably about right here. So far, so good. All right, so now I'm going to copy our card number off of this character, right? So this is suspect number 1, and we're going to go ahead and just hit Command C to copy. Come over here and hit Command V. I don't need 2 of those, I just need 1. And then so let's go ahead and bring this down to about right here. And then what we're going to do here, let's go inside of this group and let's change our 1 and let's make it number 2. All right, so now I'll go back to the main timeline. And what we can do is let's actually make number 2 a little bit bigger there. So that way it kind of fills out the box a little better. Okay, that's looking okay. All right. So what we can do is now we're going to resize this to fit his hands here. And we're actually going to take his character and we're going to go ahead and select Tom here. We're going to rotate and we're going to turn him this way. All right. So he's facing this way and then I can pull him this way a little bit. And then let's go ahead and take our his number 2 box here and now we can push it right here. All right. So now we're looking pretty good. So now what we can do is let's go ahead and find the part where he talks and then we can get his lip sync going on.
One desire.
Number 3.
All right, so here's where we want to cut it. So let's zoom in a little more here. And let's see.
Fire.
All right, so right here is where we're gonna cut. And let's go ahead and click on our cut there. And so now I come here, let's right click on this guy and hit lip sync with Tom, right? And then I think we should be pretty good.
One desire.
Number 3.
All right, so here is where we know we can trim everything up. So let's go ahead and clean up this stuff here so we make room for the next wave of stuff. Let's go ahead and trim this down to here. Right, there we go. And then let's go ahead and trim this down. We'll bring the swing back to here, and then we'll trim this down to here. All right, so far, so good. So let's play this back from right here just to see.
Number 2, keep it going.
The one desire.
Actually, you know what? So this is working out perfect for this character, but great example. We need to go ahead and click on our animation here, and we need to disable the start and the end. So you can see, let's make sure that he should be set to be happy. There we go. And that way, when it ends, he doesn't just drop his hands, kind of like he did a second ago. So far, so good. And let's go ahead and mop this down to there and clean that up there. All right, so I'm going to add a little bit of camera movement to this guy just to give it a little bit more motion. So I'm going to go ahead and right click. I'm going to add animation, and here is my camera. And now I want it to be kind of right after he starts to sing his second line.
Desire.
So right as he says desire. So let's go here.
One
So right here is where I'm going to kind of set this up. So we're going to start this, and here is where it stays as a full shot right here. And then I'm going to go to the end here And I'm just going to punch in just a little bit, ever so subtly. And then here's where I can play it back. I'm going to need to resync my the audio again because I did adjust my camera. So now let's play this back.
Desire.
Number
All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and duplicate the second or the main detective again. And then that way he's already in place. I'm just going to do that real quick. So when I come back, he'll already be there. And then we'll go ahead and get the rest of the scenes built out. All right, so I've already got that second detective part. So we left suspect 3 and we went to this section where he says, tell me why. And then it goes to suspect 4.
That away.
Tell me why.
All right, so now we're going to build this section of the detective again. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select our, let's go with this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy. I'm going to hit copy, and then I'm just going to go ahead and paste this here. And then again, we'll drag it down and we'll get it to about right here. And so here's where he says, tell me why, but we're going to go ahead and let's zoom in here a little bit. And we're going to change his happy to be back to an idle. And then he is going to be not really how he's actually going to be angry, right? Because he's into it, but he's telling them, he's questioning them, right? He's telling them to sing because he's trying to pinpoint who the suspect is. All right, so we're going to get our first keyframe and we're going to set him. So we're going to have him rotate a little bit here and we're going to have him come from this way. And he's kind of mad, right? And then he's going to start here and he's going to lean in and really get into it, right? So he starts here and he comes in real fast, right? So let's see.
Tell me why.
So right here is where he stops. So let's go ahead and pull this back a little bit so we know where he stops. And then let's get this synced up here. All right, so let's make the cut while we're here. So I'll come here and let's go ahead and make that cut. All right, so let's go ahead and sync with Tom. So I'm gonna come up here, I'm gonna right click on my audio file and then click sync with Tom. And so now,
Tell me why.
Ain't nothing but a heart.
all right, so we've got that section built out and we're gonna go ahead and now go to the group shots, right? So let's go ahead and again, I'm going to then pull in our rounded rectangles here and I'm gonna duplicate them. So Command C and then Command V. And let's go ahead and bring them in here. And then now let's go ahead and bring in our characters. All right, so I've got my characters already laid in. I've got my background in here, right? My prison background, and then I've got my suspect 1, 2, 3, and 4 laid in. So really though, the focus is only on 1 and 2 for this shot. So what I did is I just kind of brought him in and then I sized him up, right? You can select your guy. You can even select both the swing of the cardboard and the person, right? And then you can move them around if you need to. I've got them lined up pretty good. And then I went and to sync them, I went and right clicked and I hit sync with Tom on all 4 of my characters. So that way they would all be singing the same thing, right? So now if I play this back from here.
Tell me why.
Ain't nothing but a heartache.
Tell me why.
All right, so we've built out our first group scene, right? And now we're going back to the police guy, right? So we've already copied and pasted his animations back in, but we did have to tweak his actual animation. So we went from an idle and now we chose a surprised animation. And then we are going to have to select this and we're gonna have to disable the start and the end so he stays with his hands on his head like that. And then we're gonna choose happy, right? And so he is gonna say,
Why?
he says, tell me why, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have him, let's zoom in a little more so you can see what's going on here on the timeline. So let's go ahead and click on our first keyframe here. And I'm gonna go ahead and hit rotate and I'm gonna have him come back a little bit. And then we're gonna click that second keyframe and then he's gonna come up and he's really excited, leaning into it. So that way when he comes in,
Why?
all right, so looking good so far. And so what we're gonna do is let's pull in this guy a little bit and then let's pull these guys out to here. So it matches. And then let's pull our his desk out a little bit so it's the same length, and the same thing with our microphones there as well as our joystick. All right, so we've got those lined up. So now what we need to do is let's find the spot where we want to cut so we can sync his audio. So let's go ahead and play this back here.
Why?
So about right here is where we're going to cut it. So let's do this right here. Let's make a cut it. And then we will then come here, right click, and we will sync with Tom. Let's go to this top one here.
And but a mistake.
All right, so far so good. So we've got him synced up there, and he's excited. And actually, you know what? Let's have him even come in a little bit more. So let's have him. Let's go here, and let's have him lean in, and let's have him rotate in a little bit more like this. And let's see what he does there. So now he comes in. There we go, looking good. All right, so now we can go back to our group shots again, and we can bring in those guys. All right, so I've got my suspects in, I've got the groups. Remember, I just went ahead and I copied in this set of group of suspects here, and I just copied it to be right here. All right, so I just Command C, I selected them all, Command C, and then I Command V'd to paste them into this section here, wherever my cursor was. Now I want to go ahead and group these, right? Because I want to group them because I want to give them an animation as an entire group. All right, so let me pull this up so you can see this entire group here. So this is my whole setup here, and you can see it gets a little wild, right? It can be a lot of tracks. So you can kind of organize a little better if we group things, right? So let's go ahead and move this over here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna select all these guys right here like this. And then I'm gonna go ahead and right click and hit group. All right, so this is my suspect group right here. And I can even drag it down here if I want to, just so it gets a little better. Now let's go ahead and pull this down so we can see more of our screen real estate there. All right, so one thing to point out real quick is if you're trying to sync your audio to your characters, what you can do is if you're trying to do this and your audio is say outside of the group here, and you're right clicking here and your group maybe is above this audio track and you're trying to hit, sync audio, it won't sync properly. So you need to go inside your group and make sure that your audio is inside that group as well, right? So from here, then you could come in and sync with Tom and do all that good stuff and make it work. So just in case you're getting frustrated and you're trying to figure something out, just make sure that your audio is inside of your group, and that will allow you to sync your audio. All right, so from here, what we're gonna do is we're gonna create some animation. So I'm gonna go ahead and right click on my group, add animation, and I'm just gonna add some position. All right, so it added 2 keyframes, and let me scroll over here a little bit and let's zoom in so we can see what's going on. All right, so I've got my in keyframe and I've got my out. So for my in, I'm gonna leave it as is, right? And I'm just gonna move it over here. And for example, maybe you didn't want to start on these 2 guys. Maybe you wanted to start on a different character. Let me pull this out a little bit. What you could do is you could select your first keyframe, go over here to properties, and under position on your X, you can then move this and justify it around to wherever you want it to start. So for me, I'm gonna have it start on suspects 2 and 3, all right? And then for my out keyframe, I'm gonna have it end, I'm gonna go back to properties here. I'm gonna have it end on 3 and 4, about right there. All right, so what I can do is I can move this. If I zoom in, you can see there is a line, right, that connects the 2 keyframes. So if I put my cursor right over that line, I can left click and hold and drag it to the left there, and that will allow me to set the start there right at the beginning. And then I'll drag out my end keyframe so it kind of plays out throughout the whole clip. So now, if I play this back, you'll see that it's got some motion.
Ain't but a mistake.
All right, so we've got that motion that goes on there. So it pans across the screen and it gives it more of a nice animated feel, right? All right, so now we can go on to the next line, which cuts back to our police guy.
5. I never.
Right, real quick, he shouts out to go to number 5, and then we'll cut to number 5. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and pull my screen up so we can see my whole timeline here, just to make it easier for you to see. All right, so what I'm gonna do is if I go here, you can see that this is my detective. If I come down here, there he is right there. And again, I'm just gonna copy all of his assets there. So I want his background, his animation, and I have this background down here, his actual background set right there. So what I can do is I can Command C, and then come over here and go past my group, and let's Command V that. All right, and I pasted him way up here. Now I can drag him down, and let's move over here so you can see a little better, and then I'll pull him right here. All right, so I've got him in here, and now let's bring this down so we can see a little bit better, and I'll scroll down this way. And so here's our audio, and here is our guy, so I can go here.
5. I never.
All right, so I need to adjust his animation, and I need to sync his audio, right? So let's go ahead and find that cut and where it's happening. So let's zoom in, and let's play this back here.
5.
So number 5 stops about right there. So let's make that cut right there. And then we can start zooming in here and trimming this to match the rest of that there. So I could take this in, and then all the rest of the guys here, I could do the same. All right. All right, so now let's kind of animate him a little bit. So what I need to do is I need to go in here to my animations and I need to make sure that instead of idle or whatever animation it was on, it goes to idea, right? Because he's going to point up in the air and he's going to get excited, right? He's really into the song now and he's directing them all. So he puts his thumb up and we can even, let's zoom in here on his keyframes that I've got. And let's select that first one. And then let's just move him over a little bit right there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate him a little bit. And I'm going to have him turn around. So he's going to be here. And then on that out keyframe, he's going to come here. And he's already kind of set. But I'm going to scoot him over. Actually, let's rotate him there. And let's take off the rotation. And let's pull him out a little bit right here. So you can kind of see his finger. And let's see what that looks like. So from here, he comes around. There we go. Looking pretty good, right? So, all right. So he turns around. He's animated nicely. We're building that up. Now I need to sync his audio, right? So again, I'll put my cursor over my animation that the audio is going to be there. I'm going to go ahead and right click that and then sync with Tom. And so now we've got our lip sync going on. So let's see here. 5. All right, so we've got that going. Now we can add in our suspect number 5, right? So let's go ahead and do that now. All right, so I've already copied over suspect number 5. And what we can do is we can just make some small tweaks, right? So again, if I scroll up, you'll see that I just copied over our suspect who was sitting right here, right? And I just copied him over to right here, right? So let's scroll down so you can see this is suspect number 5. And again, all I'm going to do is he's just holding his same suspect number 5 card. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select him. And I'm actually going to just make him a little bit bigger there and maybe pull him up there. All right. And let's see the whole frame there. So that's looking pretty good. All right. So now you can see that he goes number 5 and then he comes in and sings his part.
Wanna hear you say.
All right. So, and I went ahead and synced his audio, right? So I just right clicked and then I synced the audio there for him. And then what you can do is I put in the next set with the police guy where he comes in and right. So we need to adjust his character now to match his woo kind of sound, right? So let's go ahead and scroll in here and let's move to the side here. And what I'm gonna do is let's adjust him so that he's not turning around. He's already in his spot. So let's go to rotate here and let's bring him around this way and let's turn him that way. And then let's go ahead and take our out and let's adjust him so he's a little more standing upright. And I'll take off the rotate and I'm actually gonna move him over a little bit here. Let's see what he looks like here at the beginning. And let's see what that does. Let's move this to the start. And again, I'm just manipulating keyframes, right? So if wherever I want him to start, again, select your first keyframe and then adjust. And then wherever you want him to end in his final position, select that last keyframe and then make your adjustments. All right. And then again, there's that line in the middle of the keyframes. If you move it back and forth, you can choose where you want that keyframe to start at essentially. So there we go. So that's looking pretty good. All right, let's go back to here. All right. And then here's where we're going to make the cut for the next group shot. It's going to come in all of them again. And then we're almost about to end this whole sequence here. So let me build those out. I'm basically just copying over it and then I'll show you how I work those. And then we'll get to the final product. Okay, so I've built out the rest of the scenes here just by copying and pasting. And that's how quick and easy it is. So once you build one of these out, you can then copy and paste and then tweak timing, tweak the animations to make them into a different character or reposition and adjust cameras, that kinds of things. So essentially we left off right here and then we brought in number 5 and then he does his little shout out. And then they all come in as he comes in and sings again, number 5, right here. Right. And then I copied that group over again because it cuts back to them and they're kind of just like freaked out a little bit, right? That's the reaction they have. And then the next shot after that is him right here.
Chills, literal chills.
Right. Again, all I did was I copy and pasted over his, I'll zoom in here so you can see and I'll copy over, but I copied over his animations again, his background, and I adjusted his animation itself to be surprised again, right? He's saying chills, literal chills. And then make sure you disable the start, disable the end, and he's happy about it, right? He's excited. And then here is where it's going to cut to the actual person that's trying to point out the suspect, right, in the scene. All right, so let's bring in our female character. So I'm gonna go to my 3D creator and I'm gonna drag in Lenka, right? Again, if you haven't downloaded her, in the bottom right corner, you can download there. And then once you have it downloaded, you can drag in those assets into your timeline. So I'll just drag her in right there, and there she goes. And so from here, you can see she's a little small, so I need to scale her up, and I'm gonna scale her up pretty big here. And I'm just gonna bring her in about right here. That looks pretty good. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna click on her presets here because I have a saved preset for her the way she's gonna look. Now again, if you want to adjust her and create something of your own, go to customize, and then from there you can customize your character and put in however you want her to look, right? Which is pretty cool. All right, so from here, I'm gonna click on her idle, and then I'm gonna change her facial expression to be sad because she's definitely not happy about this moment, right? And then I'm gonna go ahead and see where she lines up here. Let's see what her audio does.
Number 5 killed my.
Oh my God, I forgot.
Okay, so she goes to about right here. So I'm gonna drag her out here, see here. And then I'm gonna go ahead and put my cursor over her animation, and then on her audio, I'm gonna right click and then sync with Lenka. All right, so now, there you go. You can see her lips are already moving. So if I pull this back a little bit to right here.
Number 5 killed my brother.
Okay, so we've got that synced up. And so now we're in the position where we need to go back to our Tom character, and he is reacting to what she's saying because he totally forgot because he had them singing the song. So let's see what we got here. So here is where it goes. I'm gonna take in, let's see.
Oh my God, I forgot about that part.
All right, so it cuts into him. Again, we took away the joystick, the microphone, and his table, right, for this scene. So I just copied over Tom and the actual background, and I zoomed in on it a little bit. So that way it's a little more of a dramatic moment of him realizing that he forgot about the moment. And then from here, again, all we need to do is right click and then sync with Tom. So then now his voice is now synced up.
God, I forgot about that part.
A couple additional things I want to point out to kind of enhance your scenes here and kind of give them a little bit more extra life is if I go in here to say, for example, you want to add some shadow, right? He's obviously there's some light on him. So I can click on my animation, come over here to settings, and then under shadow, here is your shadow angle and your distance. So if I put my cursor here under distance, I can then pull out the shadow there, and then you can see you can change the angle of it. So if you want to give it a little bit more life there to make it more realistic, those are little tweaks you can do. Also, you can add in spotlights and things like that. So let me show you how to do that real quick. All right, so if I go over to my effects and components, you'll see that I can go to my components section, and here is a spotlight. So if I drag this over this scene right here, right, let's just put it right here. Let me move up so I can see what's going on. And then if I drag this spotlight right here, like so, all right, it pulls in the spotlight, and I can drag this out to be the length of this scene here, right? So specifically, maybe I just want to light up this scene. So what I can do is I can maybe drag this down to be, 77, and I can feather it out to here. And then of course I can make this bigger, right? So then I can spotlight it out so it gives it more of a look there, right? So if I take it away, and then here again, it gives it more shadow, right? And you can change the opacity. You can change the type, right? You can go to a circle or a square if you want. And you can adjust the opacity, kind of play around with the lighting to get it to where you want it to go, right? Maybe I want it to be 100 there, and maybe I want to feather it out a little more to kind of broaden out that spotlight, right? So just different ways that you can light your scenes and create more of a dramatic mood, right? So nice, cool, quick tips to kind of help enhance those scenes, right? So again, hopefully you got some really cool, quick tips out of here. Can't wait to see what y'all create, and I'll catch you on the next tutorial.